dear. Oh. Wow, the new software is really troubling me. Hello and welcome back to Celtic World, the YouTube channel and podcast that celebrates the fact that Celtic have fans all over the planet. And hold the front page, but we have among our number today a new but rather familiar face, I imagine, to many of you. The wandering minstrel of Celtic YouTube, and a call. And formerly of the Huddle Breakdown, he's now seeking a more intellectually stimulating platform.
Come to the wrong place.
Until he finds one, we're delighted to say, and welcome to Celtic World.
How are you, lads? How are you getting on?
Getting on very well. Gents, would you like to say hello to Enda? Formally welcome him.
Welcome, Enda. Nice to have you on.
Yeah, welcome, Enda. Nice to see you. Got a little bit of an intimidating feel to tonight's show, so that's good.
Why don't you explain that for us, Stephen?
Well, 3 out of the 4 of us are in Australia, albeit several hours time difference away from each other. But yeah, we're all the Australian boys are well represented tonight.
Well represented indeed. As you can tell, we're still struggling, or I'm still struggling with this new software, so you'll have to bear with us. But as you say, 3 people in Australia, but it doesn't matter where you're from Parkhouse to Perth, Dalmarnock to Dortmund. Wherever you're joining us from, you're part of a Celtic world. I'm supposed to say something like that early on, but it was lost in the panic. All right, so we're delighted to have you, and only a little bit annoyed that pesky Hamish stole our thunder and had you on Celtic AM recently. We thought we'd be breaking the internet with our Enda exclusive.
Yeah, I don't think I'm that big of a draw, but yeah, Hamish is. I think he's like 4 minutes away from me in Melbourne, which actually just worked out that all the Irish and Scottish end up in the same spot in Melbourne around the St Kilda Road. So yeah, I think it was more out of coincidence than him scouting me out and making sure that he can get a high-end product and high-end transfer deal on the table. But no, I'm happy to be here. Happy to be part of the Celtic Word tonight.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, what are we going to be talking about? Let me just pull it up. Slightly slower than normal. Well, you can see I've been keeping up with all the P. Diddy news. As you can see, that has influenced all of the titles here. You can find me in the club is number 1. That's where welcoming Enda. Followed by the title of this show, which is The Joy of 6, referencing our 6 fabulous goals. Where they're going to talk about individuals and who might line up in Dortmund, which player going to play. And then we'll preview the Dortmund match, which is obviously away in Dortmund, playing away. And then Celtic socials. Are you suitably disgusted by that lineup there, Paul?
I love a pun as much as the next man, but obviously unless the next man's you, because you've gone overboard again with that. But well played. Well played.
Overboard. Now then, I think I found a way of sharing the screen without... No, I haven't, have I? Have I? Oh, this is a disaster. All right. Sydney, tell us about... Stephen, tell us about your favourite Huddle Breakdown memory.
Sydney, tell us about Stephen.
Can you jump in there?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Huddle Breakdown. I think it's one of the podcasts that brings something different to the Celtic conversation, something new, something fresh. So yeah, big fan.
And I'm sure we've got some crossover. I know we have some people in the comments who are big fans of the show. I describe it as sort of, if you're in the right mood, there's no better Celtic podcast. And sometimes I watch it and think that was the best thing I've ever seen. And then other times, if you're not in the mood for the stats and the spreadsheets and stuff, it can be a bit overwhelming. Is that fair to say, Enda? Is that reasonable?
Well, the lads have sort of lost the run of themselves now that I'm not there to reel them in. You know, they're slandering Liam Scales and they're going overboard with the numbers. I think I try to do my best to bring the everyday fan element to the show when I was on it. But no, like the lads, like the thing that probably annoyed me when I was part of the show was that I don't know two men that put as much time into doing a Celtic podcast as the two lads, especially Alan, who does his own stats, who rewatches every game and with a fine toothpick. And then for people online, the usual suspects, to throw the idea that, you know, because they're not match going fans, that they can't talk about what's going on in the stadium and things like that. But no, I think like the detail the two lads bring is definitely an addition to Celtic Twitter or Celtic podcasting. And I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I think if you always take it with the idea that these stats are measurements, they're nothing more than that. They're not telling you that what you've seen was wrong. They're not telling you that what you've seen was right. They're just, this is what literally the factual information of what happened. And then you can make your opinion around those facts, as opposed to deciding that, you know, you're wrong about that thing.
You're appealing for nuanced thought processes. That's a forlorn hope, I think, as witnessed by the midfield battle being lost recently. That famous utterance by Juco James. Do you know what Juco stands for? You know what Juco?
I don't actually know. No, I don't. It was always the difficulty when I was doing like the intros or talking to them was trying not to refer to him as Juco, because that's not his name. James is obviously his name. So yeah, no, I'm not sure.
It's some sporting term from college, like junior collegiate or something. Like it's has stuck with him, or he liked the sound of it, you know. I think. I thought you were going to fill us in. But what you can fill us in on is elements of the game. So we're going to go through the game with a number of stills, as I gave you a little sneak preview of earlier. This is the first moment on 25 minutes, the trusty wipeout, I've named this. And were you as outraged as some by this being given as a foul and preventing Maeda's goal?
I would have been if Celtic didn't go on to absolutely trounce them 6-0. But I just thought it was just another example of the quality of refereeing you're getting in Scotland. Like, for somebody, just fair enough for the referee, if he gave the free out himself and it was his decision and it was an on-field decision in that moment in time, I could see why he came to that conclusion. But for VAR to look at it again, see that neither of the players, Trusty nor the defender, are looking at each other in any sort of way. They're just both concentrating on the ball. And then to come to the conclusion that it was a foul from Trusty, I thought it was bizarre, but not that bizarre, because we're talking about Scottish football here and we're talking about the quality of refereeing up there. So I think this will be one for next month's VAR review show. It will likely be topic number 1 or 2.
Yeah, I wasn't hugely upset, actually. I think mostly because I just think the way Trusty's arm kind of came out almost after the impact made it look slightly worse than it was. But I think I can always rely on Stephen to say that it was an outrageous decision against Celtic. Stephen?
Yeah, I mean, I think Enda said everything really. There was no intent from Trusty to initiate any contact. It was just an accidental coming together of two players in the box. So it was never a foul and a shocking decision. And for me, if the referee or the VAR official's taking the view that Trusty's done that deliberately and smashed the guy in the face with his arm, which is what that must have been the view he's taken, then he should have booked him at least, because it was a guy ended up with a fairly horrific injury, and you know, if he didn't think it was deliberate, then it wasn't a foul. As simple as that. So I can't see how the two things square away. And for me, it was just another example, as Enda said, of the awful application of VAR in Scotland.
Paul, 33 minutes, defender blocks Bernardo's shot. Looking at that there, that was a good opportunity. Good bit of defending to get across that.
Is this the one he does block, or does he?
He does block it.
I thought he sclaffed it a little bit, but yeah, no, it was a good opportunity. I just going back to the trusty thing. I think it's a red card if he thinks it's deliberate. It's it's pretty heavy contact. If he thinks it's deliberate, then it's basically a sort of forearm smash in the face. So it's obviously not deliberate, and they're just coming together. But to Steve's point, I've got no idea how he's got to that conclusion other than the usual. It's just looking for a way to slow us down.
And we will talk about your boy Bernardo later, Paul. With your permission, I will share your entry on the WhatsApp chat to steer that conversation where you said you were looking forward to talking about him. So you can kind of keep your powder dry a little bit until then. So this was his first effort anyway in 33 minutes. You want to talk about that?
It was like we didn't start amazingly, but we were starting to pick up basically after the Maeda goal, which by the way was a great. We didn't talk about the strike; it was a brilliant strike. And then we were just starting to click into gear at this point and starting to create chances. But yeah, Bernardo was at the heart of all that was good early in the game.
And then on 34 minutes, the sight that we all yearn to see, Kyogo through on goal. And what happens? Does he put it agonizingly wide, Enda? No, he doesn't. He scores, and we all rejoiced.
I think we were sort of waiting on Kyogo to get past this, because he's like, the thing about Kyogo is that he's not playing badly, is that he's just not he's not as clinical as he has been in the past. And I think this weekend he took his chances. And he goes up into, I saw somebody share, I think a guy called Grand Old Team on Twitter shared that Kyogo's now the 9th top goal scorer in Celtic's history, with 77 goals in 140 games. So that's 0.55 goals per game for Kyogo, which is the third quickest or the third highest goals per game ratio, outside of Gary Hooper, who has 0.6 goals per game for Celtic. And then the outrageous Henrik Larsson with 0.84 goals per game for Celtic. So, like, there's always this debate around Kyogo whether he's the best since Larsson. He's got to score 70 goals in 60 games if he's going to be as good as Larsson. So I don't think that's going to happen. But I think we're talking about a guy that if he stays fit and stays for Celtic, and Maeda doesn't do his best to push him out of the first team, that you're probably looking at somebody who's going to end up in the top 5 goal scorers in Celtic's history. So it's pretty good going.
Very good going. There's Enda bringing the stats right on brand. Stephen, you want to talk to us about this next moment?
Okay, is that the yeah, okay. So yeah, great strike from Bernardo after some.
Let's go back and see where Stephen is.
Really good lead-up play. Lovely.
Well, we seem to be having some technical difficulties. Yes, are you still with us, Stephen?
Yeah, I seem to be kind of dropping in and out a little bit here, but let me know if you can hear me all right.
Yes, you're flowing now.
Okay. Yeah, it was a good finish from Bernardo after some lovely teamwork leading up to that goal. Lovely little layoff from Kyogo. And I think that was one of a number of goals that just showcased where the team's at just now. Some of the footballing show was absolutely brilliant.
Absolutely. And then it didn't take us long to add to that. And your man Kyogo in again.
Yeah, and I think this kind of it shows the different styles that Celtic have this season. Or like, if you look at the different goals that they scored just in the St Johnstone game, it's showing that this isn't going to be the Brendan ball of passing the ball round in that, that sad semicircle that we became accustomed to watching at the end of his last stint. That
or like the start of this
we're talking about like a team that can pass you to death, like we saw with the 6th goal. A team that can score headers, like we've seen multiple times this season. They've done a lot of actually chipping the ball over the defense in short periods, like short distances this season. They did that a couple of times to St Johnstone. Goals from outside the box from Cal McGregor and Bernardo this weekend, or from Bernardo, Cal McGregor in the last couple of weekends. So the fact that we're scoring loads of different goals is a massive positive, because to be too predictable as a Celtic team means that teams will just bunker and let you pass the ball around them until you can eventually try break them down. But also good to see Kyogo getting different types of goals, because his movement deserves it.
Well, being unpredictable, let's do something a little bit unpredictable now, shall we? And have a halftime break for some entertainment. Here's a little video of 2 funny bits from the game. One involving pies. Don't know if you noticed that during the game. And the other was a moment of, what's the word? Nicholson talked about wanting to be world-class in everything they do. So it's a moment of world-class commentary on Celtic TV. So I hope you enjoy these 2 moments. Oops.
And how difficult, Simon, is that from a side that's lower down in the league, doesn't have the resources that the likes of Celtic has?
Outstanding steak pies.
I like it if we were to go to like a Real Madrid. How hard St Johnstone try and put a band-aid over the sinking ship.
Oops. A band-aid over a sinking ship. Do you enjoy that, Enda? Would you be proud of that one?
Yeah, I don't think a Band-Aid is going to do much, but yeah, there's pretty much. I think of all the areas that Nicholson needs to work on to make Celtic world class, I think Celtic TV is definitely one of the top in the list to have some improvements made to it. Most people who watch games abroad will know that, because I suppose that's
constant gripe from us.
Yeah, it's awful. Like, the commentary does bug me when I watch it. Like I don't mind partisan commentary when I'm watching the media of the club, but they go beyond partisan sometimes, and it just becomes a bore and a dross to listen to.
It does indeed. I thought I heard a noise of Stephen returning, but I can't see him. Oh, there he is. Stephen, you seem to be quite clear there. We're just going to go to Paul now for his reaction to the pies moment.
I'm a bit confused, to be honest. It's 2 blocks of the pie. Like, did you overdub that? Where did you get that from?
From some film. Yeah, something on YouTube. A woman who makes pies.
And why are you coming to me on pies? Like, do you feel like that's a bit of a body shaming? I like a pie as much as the next
Stephen was
man.
away, and I just went to Enda for commentary.
I like a pie as much as the next man, but is St Johnstone, is McDermott Park known for its pies? I don't know. Killy's the famous pie, isn't it? And I had it, and I didn't think it was that good. But it was okay. But
there is something essentially comedic about a couple of jokers watching like elite athletes performing on the pitch, running about. People who've made all these sacrifices in their life to achieve sporting excellence. And there's some couple of fellas chomping on pies and complaining about how crap they are.
Well,
to
be fair, the pie and the bovril is the quintessential Scottish football snack. Probably, presumably, because it's bloody freezing most of the year round, and you need a bit to be warming up to back in the days when stadiums weren't fully enclosed and wind was blowing through. And some of my earliest memories of non-league football is a halftime pie. It's about the best bit of the game sometimes.
Well, I'm glad we're using Enda's shortened appearance for all the important things here. Stephen, you're going to weigh in. Stephen, you're going to weigh in and tell us all about the Australian pie culture.
No, I was going to say there, it sounds as if you're going a bit elitist there, Gav. You're looking down your nose at some working class guys eating pies and having a bovril at the football.
No, I'm not elitist. I'm saying like fat fellas like myself. I'm really pointing the arrow at myself. The finger is coming back. Here we are criticizing elite athletes for not, delivering the ball dead on time from the comfort of our gaming chairs. So it's ridiculous. All right, let's get on with the game, shall we? That was the last action of the first half then, was the Kyogo's second goal, and we were 3-0 up at halftime. And then into the second half, and the first thing of note that happened was Callum McGregor's goal. Paul, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, it's for me. It's a good quick free kick. Like Engels just knocks it quickly to Kuhn, and they have a quick nod to themselves. But this
Get
just
the
shows.
keeper.
I've not got too many issues with the keeper. I've got a major issue with St Johnstone's defender has looked pretty shocking for the last few weeks, and it's not a surprise where they are in the league. But if you've done any, I know it's an interim manager, and I know he's been told he's not getting the job, but you still think he's done enough research to know that McGregor picking the ball up on the outside of the box and having a dig is a tactic this season, and there is no one near him. He's in acres of space. Eventually, he's taking a touch to get out of his feet by the time that bloke gets there.
Mm-hmm.
He's in masses of space, time to pick up, get it out of his feet, get his head up, and then get over it and strike it really clean. And yeah, I don't think you can blame the keeper too much, to be honest. I just think that there's zero marking on the edge of the box, and then the press is too slow. But Carl's seems to get a new lease of life since he hung up the international shirt, and I enjoyed some of the post-match comments and questions that Rogers got. He sort of explained that in previous seasons, he's typically a defensive midfielder just sort of sits deep and protects the defense, and the phrase he used was he's asked him to track the game more this season. So, he feels like they're only ever one player up, and he backs the two centre backs or whoever's covering to be able to cover that space. So he's asked McGregor to be sort of 10, 15 metres further up the pitch, and that's just allowing him to get into space that he wasn't occupying previously, and giving him that opportunity to hit shots at goal. And I think it must obviously been a sort of tactic as well, because going back to the old horseshoe that we all hated, seemed like there was a real fear or instruction not to shoot from distance, whereas, as we said earlier, we've sort of seen more of a mixture come into our play and variation, and including the shots from outside and sort of the nice chip over the top, as well as just try to get to the byline and cut it back. So, yeah, great strike, and he's on fine form, but really poor defending from St Johnstone.
Stephen, you want to take this next moment? This was another one of those lovely little moments. An Engels pass to Kuhn that the keeper actually saved, but it was like a real eye of the needle pass there through the space of defenders.
Yeah, there was some lovely intricate play from Kuhn, from Engels, from Bernardo, interacting with all the front players. And that was just another example of it there. It really was a joy to watch at times. And there's something about St Johnstone, isn't there, and attacking that end that just seems to bring out the attacking flair in our players. We've turned in some really exceptional performances here down through the years, and that one was right up there with them.
Kasper Schmeichel made a save, and it was a save of some significance. Enda, do you want to give us the historical stats on that?
I don't have any on that. What I do know top of my head is that's probably the first save that he's had to make in the league this year, and that have had any real note. But I think outside of his obvious improvements on the distribution side of things, that to have a goalkeeper that you can feel comfortable that he's going to save those, even though he has nothing to do for the majority of the game, is it's pretty nice.
I remember when we had Hart. Well, when we had Hart, I was always saying, like, I really hope our next keeper demonstrates us what Hart was lacking. Much as we all loved him, he was quite really limited. And what I meant by that was dominating your box, coming for crosses. That's not really what we're seeing from Schmeichel that much. It's more his distribution is just fantastic. I mean, he kicks the ball like a footballer, doesn't he?
And there's not even that much of a generational difference between Schmeichel and Hart. Like, Schmeichel would have been in the Man City
same age
youth team and underage, yeah. So like they came up at the same time. So it's just quality of player. And
Schmeichel lost his place to Hart. They're pretty much the same age, I think.
Yeah.
And yeah, Schmeichel was given a chance. I think he had 2 clean sheets, and then Hart came in and he was given a go in a cup game, and that was it. Schmeichel was out in his ear, and he had to move
Yeah,
on from there.
Schmeichel went on loan to a lower level club where he was kept out of the team by a guy from Donegal, actually. Struggling to think of his name. A mad goalkeeper with like bright blonde hair. It's irrelevant. Won't waste any more time on it.
Good man. I'm glad somebody else went into a dead end tonight, not just me. All right. Back to the game then. End is going to have to leave us at some stage, but so hopefully we'll get the game out of the way and maybe talk a little bit about what's coming up. This, Stephen, is Maeda's goal after a chip from Bernardo. Lovely.
Yeah, very nice. Very nice chip. Great delivery from Bernardo into the box, and it was a wonderful header from Maeda. And he actually is quite good at that aspect of attacking play. He gets his head on quite a few corners, and on this occasion he's directed it directly into the top corner. So excellent finish and lovely build-up play from Bernardo.
83 minutes, Maeda's goal. Well, that's just the very last bit of it. Did we have the flick here? Oh, here's the flick. No, this was just delightful. I imagine Paul wants to wax lyrical about Baye's little touch here.
Well, it's absolutely class, but I enjoyed the build up earlier. So he's in the inverted position that Greg Taylor has sort of taken up for a good chunk of the season, and when he's at his best, that's where he starts the play. I think it scales, it feeds it into him, and he's quick on the turn, and then he's off, and then he basically doesn't stop moving after that. He plays a lovely little ball into McCowan. McCowan's got his head up, and as the guys have mentioned, playing more of these nice little chip clips, and they're really tricky to actually make those work. It's a pretty high risk one because obviously making it connect and across that distance is not the easiest, but when they come off, they're absolutely class, and we saw a few of them in this game. And yeah, Vi's on his bike, he just keeps going. It's a brilliant ball from McCowan, and then just a little back heel, just assuming that Ida's coming in behind him, and then he's got brilliant composure, which he's showing a lot in his time with us, both permanent and on loan. He takes a lovely little touch and then outside of the boot, and it's in the corner. And then sure enough, the place would have been gone wild, and there's a rogue flag that goes up. But it's just lazy. It's pretty lazy line, flag work from the linesman, because that ball's not even travelled that far. And he's obviously got far above, because the line's coming out and he's running through it, but his run is absolutely perfection. I think the right back is probably playing him on. There might even be another player that's probably playing him on just narrowly, but yeah, it's a great run and just class. Like, obviously that's, you expect class technical ability if you're getting players that are coming out of the Barcelona academy. And yeah, I think all round the half he had was great. And it'll give him a real confidence boost. And, anyone that's not making a snap decision on the game against Falkirk will have known that there's probably more of a player there than we saw in that match. But yeah, great for his confidence. That's 2 assists in 2 games. And his assist in the Falkirk game was cracking in the layback for Bernardo as well. So yeah, more to come from him, I think. And yeah, just a great team goal, up there with that Dembele goal as well from at the same end from a few years ago.
Yeah, so the Barcelona Academy and the Irish national team, those are the 2 places you're going to get top quality from right in there.
And Dundee and Ayr United.
Here's a moment everyone's talking about. 85 minutes, tracking back, 6-0 up. Dyson Maeda, what a legend, Stephen. Nobody like him.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous, isn't it? The energy he's still got at that point in the game. To make that sort of recovery run, and I think he ran past about 3 or 4 Celtic players to get there. So he's ridiculous in the work rate that he puts into the game. He's ridiculous in the stamina and the fitness that he possesses. And there's certainly very few, as has been alluded to by Brendan a few times, there's very few people like him in world football. That's not to say he's the best player in the world or anything daft like that, but the things he does as good as anyone out there. So we're very, very, very lucky to have him, and we should enjoy him while he's here.
Okay, there was a couple of other incidents with McCowan that I was going to show, but in the interest of squeezing more juice from Enda before he leaves us, let's move on to individual players a little bit. If I was to pick 2 players I wanted to see reassuring quality from in this game, the last one before Dortmund, I would have said, please show me something from Kyogo and Trusty, over whom both there might have been a bit of a question mark. So let's start with them. And Kyogo, first of all.
Yeah, I think this does a lot for his confidence. I would say, like, I don't necessarily. It's very hard to tell with Kyogo because he always just seems so happy. It is hard to tell sometimes that he whether he's
Very
lacking in confidence. But I think it's good to see him scoring, good to see him taking his chances because he's always getting in the positions. It's not like he's not. So I think going into a Champions League game, I think it's good to have him scoring regular goals now, and even without him, Maeda coming on and scoring as well is also a positive in that aspect. On Trusty, I think it was a pretty solid performance. The one thing that probably worries me about Trusty is that he's left-footed as well, and to have 2 left-footed centre backs, it wouldn't feel weird to have 2 right-footed centre backs. So I don't know why it matters, but just the aspect of how much he's going to get pressed against Dortmund, like, versus virtually never getting pressed against St Johnstone, that's when you're really going to see the test. Because I think, Alistair Johnson's fine, Liam Scales is fine to an extent. Definitely better this year. Greg Taylor has gotten better this year in that aspect as well. But Trusty is probably the only one that hasn't been tested at that level for just playing out of the back. So I think Cal McGregor is going to be important more than anybody in the Champions League with Trusty, just to make sure that he's dropping into the same pockets as we saw him against Slaven Bratislava, that he's picking up the ball from Kasper Schmeichel as opposed to it going out to our centre backs the entire time. So, but I think it's a good start for Trusty. He definitely looks better than Nawrocki or Lager Bielka when he was there, or Stephen Welsh. Unfortunately, I don't think he's ever going to be a starter now. So, I mean, you pay $6 million for a centre back, you're hoping that he's going to do fine against St Johnstone. So I think he's definitely going to be tested this week against Dortmund.
You're talking like he's definitely going to play. That seems to be the talk now, is that everyone assumes it's Scales and Trusty and CCV won't make it. Is that where we're all at?
I'd say so. I mean, like, you probably don't want to throw Cameron Carter-Vickers in if he's not fully fit. I mean, he's done it a couple of times last season, but then we see the drop-off of what that happens in the following game. So I'd be worried about throwing a player like Cameron Carter-Vickers, who has the issues that he has, into a big game and potentially making things worse. When if you pay, say, the 13 million for Arne Engels, you expect him to go into the midfield. So you pay 6 million for Trusty, you expect him to go into defense, and it's sink or swim, really, isn't it?
It's a free hit as well. Like, the Dortmund game's a free hit. So why would you risk? Like, if it's the last game of the league and you need some sort of result from it, then maybe throw him in. But it's a second game. It's dead. It's not dead rubber, but it's a free hit. If we lose this game, in fact, if we lose the next 2 or 3 games, it still doesn't really affect our overall position. We should still get, we still got games that are, closer and hopefully easier to get a result in than this one. So I agree with Enda. I think if there's any, I know he's been basically getting injections, so he clearly isn't going to be ready without an injection. So do you want to put him through that when there's plenty of bigger and more important games to come?
Okay, before you go, Enda,
I don't think, and I don't
think about the time. Let me ask Enda who his midfield 3 is before he goes
for the Dortmund game.
Yeah, then we'll come back to Steve.
I think it's going to be a return to Hatate, Engels, and McGregor. I think that seems to be the way that Brendan Rodgers is going to play it. Now, personally, I prefer Bernardo because I think he, like Brendan Rodgers alluded to at the weekend, he can move into that sort of defensive role, like the Cal McGregor role, if McGregor is moving forward. So maybe that is going to be the way forward. Maybe Hatate was there because Bratislava were a little bit more open and required that little extra bit of finesse to get around them. But I think I'd prefer Hatate in this game. I think coming out for the break, he has a better range of passing than Bernardo does. So if you can get the ball forward quickly to our wingers like we did in the preseason games against Chelsea and against Man City, Brendan Rodgers already said that those were the two games that were modelled on the Champions League on how we want to play, and Hatate played a key role in those two games. So I think it's going to be him.
Stephen, I just cut you off there. You were about to talk about CCV.
Yeah, we're just going to mention that, all the talk has been about when we're going to see Trusty and CCV together. But so far this season, CCV's form has not been that great, to be honest. And I think Liam Scales has been the better of the two centre-halves. So also from that point of view, I don't think you'd be wanting to rush Cameron Carter-Vickers back into this game because he just hasn't really been playing that well. So I don't think, and that might be because he's carrying a few niggling knocks, and he might get the opportunity to improve his form once his injuries are cleared up. But I don't think he deserves to be rushed straight back into the team as things stand just now.
And on Hatate, if you want to talk about that, we'll move it on insofar as we're going to talk about Bernardo now. If I just do this. Paul, you want to talk about Paulo Bernardo, and let's set the scene by referring to your message on the WhatsApp group. Ian said, enjoy talking about that game today on Monday, lads. What a performance. And this is what you said. I'm looking forward to it. I'm keen to discuss that despite the obvious addition of Engels. The signing of Paulo Bernardo on a permanent deal was a fantastic bit of business. The midfield has been so good, we've not missed Matt one bit, which is incredible when you consider it.
Yeah, well, I don't think I find it hard if somebody wants to argue with me. We've not missed Matt O'Reilly, but I don't think we have. And we did talk, or I think I mentioned in a little bit of a obviously blatant Moneyball ripoff. I said, well, you're not going to replace a 25 million, 30 million pound midfielder. You just can't, but you might be able to replace him in the aggregate. And I feel like that's what we've done. We've got Engels, who's obviously, powerful, good physique, technical. Bernardo's gone up a notch, clearly, probably multiple notches, but sort of that was always in his locker. You don't get to be the under-21 captain of Portugal if you've not got something about you. Carl's playing sort of better than he has done, with the burden of the international stuff lifted, presumably. And Hatate, while he hasn't hit top form, we've seen smatterings of what he's got to offer and him at his peak. So with the fact we're flying already and Hatate isn't really up consistently at his best, shows that there's levels we can go in this team. But yeah, I think Bernardo showed enough to me in small pockets last season that he was absolutely worth the money. And if we'd spent 6 on him, I'd have been quite happy with 6. Obviously, we negotiated that down to 3.5 and probably bumped the sell on a little bit. But regardless, getting him in on a permanent deal is a brilliant bit of business. People that said, he wasn't at the level of Matt O'Reilly. Well, he maybe wasn't last season, but he's a season further on. He's had time to bed in. He's obviously come out of Portugal, had a year to settle in at Celtic, and this is how we should be doing the projects, if you want to call them that. I know we all hate using that phrase, but get them in, drip feed them to the team. They're not asked to be, a regular for the majority of the season. But there was clearly trust in Bernardo. He played derbies and he had key impact. He was regularly picked in the Champions League because he's a technician. He doesn't give the ball away much. He's got a bit of a languid running style, which people say he's a bit one-paced. I don't think he is. I think that's just how he sort of looks, a bit like somebody like Samaras or Berbatov, these players that sort of got a languid running style, but are actually a bit quicker than you think. I just think he's just really pushed on, and I'm really excited to see where he can go. I could see him having the development difference from one season to the next that Matt O'Reilly had last season for us, and I could see that happening this year. And that coupled with Engels, Hatate, and McGregor is really exciting. It's obviously the strongest part of our team, and it should be, if you wanted to pick one part of the team to be the strongest, you'd pick your midfield. And yeah, I think it's absolutely great for the team that we've got that strength and depth. And I understand Enda's point in terms of Hatate, but for me, I in this game where I will be asked to defend more, I'd go Paulo Bernardo, and I think he's earned his place. I think he was lucky to lose the jersey after the derby, and obviously Hatate had a good game against Bratislava. But in this case, where they won't be as open, and I think we're more likely to get goals against Dortmund with the speed on the counter, and you don't necessarily need Hatate for that. Whereas I think we'll need the defensive work of Bernardo more than maybe what we see from Hatate. So that's why he'd be my pick for tomorrow night.
That Paul has made his case there for Bernardo, and it will give you an opportunity to change your mind.
I'm happy either way. Like he was saying, like Bernardo has been really good, and I think the key point I would make on the Bernardo situation, I think Paul sort of alluded to him getting better there, is that I think there's a tendency for Celtic fans or not Celtic, for football fans in general, to see a player and see their level and forever think that that's their base level, and that if they're improving, then they'll always, at some period in time, they'll redact to the norm and they'll be back to their usual standard. Whereas I think I'll give Bernardo time.
Huddle breakdown language there.
A little bit, but more so.
Sorry,
like,
apologies everyone in the audience.
I'll give Bernardo a little bit longer to prove that, because I think he does need to prove it over a longer period of time. But if you look at Liam Scales or Greg Taylor, like those are two players that I think have proved a lot of people wrong and have gotten better. And I think that now this is their base level, that this is the standard of player, that they're not playing out of their skin anymore. This is just them being much better players than they used to be. And I think if Bernardo can do that under Rodgers, and that's what makes Rodgers a great coach, is that he makes players better always. He always makes players better. I think Johnston has gotten better again this season. Kuhn has obviously shown improvements. Maeda is getting better at some aspects of the game.
Exactly. I wanted to talk about that. Is Brendan improving Maeda?
I think he's getting the best out of him, and he is also maybe telling him to keep it simple, potentially a little bit more. And he's getting him into positions that he doesn't need a third and fourth chance to fluff it. So I think it's all positive, really.
Just in case you're itching to go, here's a question you can sink your teeth into for another 20 minutes. Would Maeda have gotten into Martin O'Neill's team? Asks Ian.
No.
Okay,
no.
That's a short answer.
Does he play?
Stephen, you jump in and give us a bit more meat on the bones once end is done.
Yeah, I think the question, it kind of boiled down to, would you play Maeda in front of Alan Thompson, I think was what the main thrust of the debate that we were having was. And I think in that case, I would agree with Enda. You probably wouldn't, because Alan Thompson's deliveries into the box were pivotal to how Celtic played under Martin O'Neill. But what I was saying was that maybe, he could have played a sort of Didier Agat role on the right-hand side. And I think if that's your comparison, then, I think Maeda would just shade it from Agat, although Agat was another absolute athletic machine who just got up and down that right flank for 90 minutes non-stop for Martin O'Neill. I think you get the same from Maeda, but I think Maeda would just shade it over Agat. But if it was Maeda over Alan Thompson, I would say no.
Paul, do you want to weigh in?
Well, I made my case on the chat yesterday, and that was my point. It was, really, it's a straight fight between him and Tomo, and you don't replace Maeda with Tomo, or Tomo with Maeda, as far as I'm concerned. So, and the big thing is how those two teams play. Maeda's perfect for our system. Could Tomo play as well as Maeda in our current system in that position? Maybe not. He'd probably be back in midfield. He wouldn't be out in the left wing. But in the 3-5-2 that O'Neill preferred, yeah, I think it's Tomo all day for me.
What do you think?
He wouldn't play
of Maeda and.
I think he would have loved him, like to an extent. The football back then didn't merit players who did what Maeda does, because the high pressing wasn't really a thing, or at least in the same way. And he's not technically probably good enough to be a winger in that era of footballers, because you were required to cross the ball 5 to 10 times a game and get it into the into the box very early and accurately, and Maeda doesn't do that and can't do that. But could Tomo play up front or play left wing in a high pressing team and press for longer than 25 minutes? No harm to Alan Thompson. I don't think he had the same engine that Maeda had. So Didier Gath might be the only person I can think of of that era of Celtic that would have been able to maintain the same level of intensity that Maeda plays at week in, week out.
Well, and congratulations, you're putting in the intensity. We're at 45 minutes. You haven't left us yet. So let's ask this question or turn to this. Tim's tweet. Tuesday will tell us a lot about where we are. If Dortmund pump us, then it's same old, same old. If we compete and make it a tight game, that's improvement. If we get any kind of positive result, then it's time for celebration. Would we all
Can I take this before I go?
Yes, go ahead.
I think that's an incredibly negative way of looking at this. Like, Dortmund are a way bigger side financially than Celtic, have been playing at the highest level for longer, like at a sustained level longer than Celtic have. And I just don't think that it's fair to say that if we get battered at Dortmund, and like, it depends on the battering. It depends on if it's like a completely like 6-0 whitewash. I don't think that's what it's going to be. The most annoying aspect of it is if it's same old where we have 3 chances in the first 20 minutes and we fluff our lines and then we concede a stupid goal 25, 26 minutes in and then it falls apart. That's when you start to get worried and it's same old. But I don't think after one result against Dortmund away in the Champions League, you can say that it's same old if you don't get a result. I think it's an incredibly negative viewpoint.
Well, thank you for bringing a bit of positivity to the show today, and among us negative Nellies. What was it you called me the other day, Paul?
I don't know. It wasn't negative Nelly, but it was in the same kind of ballpark.
It was an alliterative female name.
Nancy, maybe a negative Nancy.
No, it wasn't negative. Even. It was depressing. Deirdre, I can't remember. Yeah. Anyway, Enda, thank you very much. We're going to have to let you go. I think time is short. Yeah. So thanks for
having me.
And we may see you again some sunny day. Enjoy Melbourne.
Yeah, enjoy the match on Wednesday or whenever it is my time.
Everyone's confused. It's definitely on Tuesday night.
It's Wednesday
night, so it's Wednesday morning.
It's Wednesday morning for all of us. So,
it'll be a 5 a.m. kickoff for you, Enda, in Melbourne, just like me in Sydney. So put it in your diary.
5 a.m. is better. 5 a.m. is better than 3 a.m., which is the case for me and Gav. So yeah,
that's true. Cheers, lads. Thanks for that.
All the best.
All right.
Cheers, Enda.
Thanks, mate.
Have a good one.
Cheers.
Okay, that was nice to have Enda. Was that a nice little surprise for you there, Paul and Stephen?
Well, we already knew, didn't we?
We knew. It wasn't a surprise, Gav.
Could have pretended. For
production value. It's a surprise for the audience.
The end of the road. I bet you he's had to live with people making puns on end of all his life, so let's not do that.
No, let's not.
All right, let's carry on then about this Dortmund game. Now, it's fair to say we couldn't be facing the game in any better shape, really, apart from maybe one or two minor things. Have our expectations changed for the away game at Dortmund? When the draw came out, we all said, first 3 games, 3 points, no points, no points. Right? An event since then have slightly coloured that black and white kind of view. So, Paul, where are you on the possibility of us getting something from this game?
Well, I think we've got a fighting chance of getting something here. I think you wouldn't. I wouldn't sit here and say we're definitely going to go there and win, but barring the kind of shoot yourself in the foot debacle that we've seen all too often in the Champions League, and particularly away from home, you know, the early red cards, the daft goals, the usual nonsense. If we can get that out of the game, then we have got more physicality, we have got more athleticism. We've got lightning pace on the counter, which I think is where we can hurt them. The thing that gives me a bit more optimism as well is Dortmund are leaking goals all over the place. They were 2-0 down on Friday night, and yeah, they came back and they won 4-2. They got pumped 5-1 by Stuttgart. Admittedly, they probably played a weak inside on the back. I didn't check in detail, but that was on the back of after the first Champions League game. So, they've conceded 7 goals domestically in the last 2 matches. They're obviously not in amazing form. Now, their not amazing form is obviously they're still probably better than us. But I think we've got a chance. If we play at the level we can, then and they have any kind of off day, there's an opportunity for a result. So yeah, I'm more optimistic than we've been. And I think you've got to temper it. Yes, we've been, we scored 5 against Falkirk and 6 against St Johnstone, but you can only beat what's in front of you. In the past, you'd be winning those games by a goal or 2, but we're absolutely thumping teams at the moment. And the Bratislava result, yeah, they're probably the weakest team in the Champions League, but in days gone by, you wouldn't even have got a result, never mind beat them 5-1 at home. So confidence will be super high. Stuff like Kyogo scoring 2 goals away from which he hasn't done for over a year, or nearly a year, is positive. I think the back line will be in for a fair amount of pressure. So that's why I do think it's another reason for Bernardo being in, to use that bit more coverage. I think Engels might play a little bit deeper than he has been. But yeah, they can be got at. And if we don't do anything too daft, obviously, as I said, that comment was a bit, negative. He's got a point. I think the idea is that we've shot ourselves in the foot often on the road in the Champions League. If we can be at least competitive, it's progress. And I think we will see progress. Whether we can get an actual result is a bit in the lap of the gods, probably.
Well, we're going to find out what Stephen expects from this big game after this brief message.
Pay attention. This is totally free and great crack. The least you...
Pay attention.
What? Whenever I play videos, the sound is all weird and doubled up. Do you get that, or do things play as normal?
Yeah. There was a bit of feedback there. It's like a double sound in the background.
It's not very helpful. Anyway, the message was, please subscribe to our channel. It's completely free. We're not owned by a newspaper. We have no corporate third-party overlords telling us what to do. We never ask you for money, for content. It's only our 2nd season. Subscribing costs you nothing, so go ahead and do it. And smash that like button while you're at it. Now everyone's waiting on tenterhooks to hear Stephen's warts and all expectation of what's really going to happen in this next game.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the key phrase that Paul used there was competitive, and I think that's what I want to see. I think it is important not to get too carried away in terms of expectations from what we can achieve in Dortmund. If we were to go there and win, it would literally be one of the best results in our history, really, winning over there. And I think that's, to expect that to happen is a bit of a bridge too far. But if we can stay competitive in the game, if we can, avoid, as we said, avoid the calamities that have befell us in the last few seasons, and just give them a game, and maybe still be in touch with them, maybe still be in with a chance with 20 minutes to go. If you lose the game, by the odd goal, then, that's just the level we're playing at just now. You can't legislate for pieces of individual brilliance that just undo you in a tight game. And that's what Dortmund are capable of. They've got some really excellent players. And if we can force them that's what they need to do to get a result against us, then I think that will show at least a little bit of progress. As far as the Tim's tweet is concerned, I don't disagree with the gist of it, really. There is a certain aspect of us this season that, everything's going swimmingly at the moment. But we haven't really come across any adversity yet. We haven't really been troubled defensively yet. And it remains to be seen how we handle that. I think we've already mentioned Trusty. wasn't tested against St Johnstone, so we need to see how he gets on. And I think Schmeichel as well is another one who hasn't come under any real pressure in games yet, so we need to see how he does as well. But if everything goes our way and we can stay in the game till late on, then you never know, we can nick a draw. But it'd be dreamland if we could get the win.
Dreamland if we get the win. It's for me dreamland if we get the draw. I think a draw is a fantastic result, and we should all be thrilled with that. Paul, I think you're probably more of a student of the English game, are you, than some of the others of us? You know about Rogers' relationship with their manager?
I think he's an ex-player that he had in his books at Liverpool very briefly. I only know that. I'm not a massive scholar of the English game. I can't really be bothered with it, to be honest. But I think in interviews and chat that's been around in the last sort of 48 hours, that's been mentioned. Have I got that right?
That's right. Yeah, he was on loan there, and apparently Rogers didn't play him in the right position and stifled his career, and he was delighted to get away from Rogers' management. That's all I know. Stephen, can you add to that at all?
Well, no. I think Brendan Rodgers is a very, very well-travelled manager. In almost every team we play, he seems to have a prior relationship with either the opposition coach or a player in the team. So very experienced, and he's been down the block a number of times. So it's not surprising that there's a connection there, and I'm sure there'll be the utmost respect for Brendan Rodgers. And I think Dortmund will respect Celtic. I don't think they'll be expecting an easy game, particularly due to the fact they'll have been watching us over the past few weeks and they'll know that we're on a high. So I think they'll definitely give us the respect that we deserve.
Okay.
There's also the Emery Chan connection as well. I think Rodgers signed Chan for Liverpool, and he had some nice things to say about him. So there's that connection as well.
Very good. So, I mean, it's very exciting. This is a massive game coming up. Absolutely massive. Can you imagine what it's going to feel like when you're sitting down to watch the game and it's just, 2 minutes to go? We'll be bleary-eyed, but, sitting in our living rooms on the edge of our seat. It's going to be brilliant.
With the volume down, try not to wake the wife.
Well, I got the Bluetooth headphones on.
I just leave it on low.
Game's on in the pub down in
going?
Sydney. If anyone's interested, if anyone's in Sydney, I don't know. I was considering it. Just going in there and because I work in the city, so maybe just head into work after. But I think that's probably unlikely. But it's an option.
Head into work after watching the game in the pub.
Oh dear. I don't even think I'd be up to drinking at 5 o'clock in the morning, though.
Yeah, anything at all would be great. And yeah, even a 0 points, but a good showing is something. But yeah, any points at all would be an absolute bonus. But this is a great opportunity. If we do get something out of this game, we will look back and we'll say, well, we did say we were playing well. Yes, it's against SPFL teams, but the way we're approaching games and the way the players are interacting with each other and all, it's all positive. And as you said, Dortmund have shown signs of frailty. I don't know if you saw, there was an interview done by Celtic here a few days ago. Not the very recent one, not Paul, some other guy. And they talked to somebody about Borussia Dortmund. Oh, and I put the link in the WhatsApp chat and said, if you want to get excited about the game, watch this interview. And my God, that interview really makes you think that even though it's against the mighty Borussia Dortmund, it's away from home, there are various factors that make this a possibility to get something. So that's exciting. Hey, Paul, I can see the twinkle in your eye.
I think one of the things I'm keen to see is how we respond if we lose a goal. If how do we bounce back from that? I mean, it's not something that's happened very much this season. I can only look to the Bratislava game, and we were already well ahead. And I can only you can look at the Falkirk game as well, but that was a whole different set of scenarios due to the team we picked. But I think that'll be interesting, because that's a possibility. If we concede a goal, say early on in the first 20-30 minutes, how we bounce back from that and how it affects our game plan. So yeah, I think that's one of the questions that still needs to be answered about this team.
Another question that needs to be answered is whether or not there's a drink along. I saw someone asking that, and I see Kaiser in the chat. I've no idea if Kaiser and Dano are planning a drink along, but surely Dano won't be available for that. Kaiser is saying me and Dano will show you how it's done. I mean, who knows? Dano's, he's a master of his own destiny, so maybe he can crack open a cold one in the wee hours, and it's all good. Kaiser, let us know in the chat.
4 a.m. in Korea, will it be? 4 a.m.?
If you're planning to do a drink along. Maybe Kaiser's already started drinking, from judging from this comment. Is it this one? I see us scoring 6, says he. Well, anyway.
He started the drink along already.
Look, we'll find out. We'll find out if there is anything, and if there is, I'll set it up. Okay, so I don't have any social media choices from you guys. I've got another video I could play, but it's not... playing videos can be a bit traumatic on this new software, so I'm going to mute my microphone, start to play this one, and then rewind it to the start so that it plays smoothly. So that's what you're about to see. A little bit of comedy, social media stuff. In fact, there's no sound on this, so we can just play it as is. This is the goal of FC Twente against Man United. Don't know if you saw this.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah, it was absolutely dreadful defending from Man United.
Look at that. It's unbelievable. And who is it that scores?
It was Christian Ed. Yeah, Sam Lammers.
And he celebrates with Gustav Lagerbielke.
Gustav Lagerbielke. Mm-hmm.
Here's the question. Has this lad shat his kecks? Look at the way this guy runs. That's how you would run if you had shat your kecks. Gotta say, that's pretty funny. And we're back in the room. That wasn't too bad.
He looks less mobile than some of the masters I've played against.
So are we going to talk about score predictions or anything? Or is it just, pointless, too much in it? I'm going to predict what happens. Here's what happens. We score the first goal. They come back and take the lead 2-1. And then very late in the game, we get a glorious equaliser. 2-2. Who's up
Well, I'm
next?
having this. I've got this recurring vision in my head that I can't shake, that sees James Forrest scoring the winning goal in the last couple of minutes of the game. He gets brought on late in the game, playing on the right. He scored this goal a number of times before. He just knocks it past the fullback, and then everybody's expecting him to cross it, but he just lashes it high into the net from an acute angle. So that's what's going to happen, and that's what's going to be the winning goal.
Paul, can we go over to you for your excessively detailed prediction of this game?
I've not really. Look, if I'm listening to my heart, I'm thinking. I think there'll be goals. So, potentially. And if you want outlandish thinking with a heart only, then 3-2 we win away. Realistically, I think we probably lose by the odd goal. But yeah, at the minute I'd take 2-2. So let's see how it goes. I think it's just great to be going at this game with this amount of sort of, I'm not saying confidence, but confidence we can at least compete. And I think hopefully that we come out of the game and that hasn't been a complete balloon burster. So yeah, we'll see. But like as we said, it's a free hit. It really, unless we get absolutely gobbed, it's a free hit. So why don't
It's
we
not
go
the
and
end
have
of
a
the
go?
world if we come away with 0
Looking
points.
forward. I'm looking forward to seeing how Engels does, because this is the stage he was bought for, and he'll know that himself. That's why he's been brought to the club. He's not been brought to the club to play Falkirk and St Johnstone. With all due respect to those teams, this is his stage, and so far he's looked up to every challenge that's been thrown at him. So I'm expecting big things from him, and he could be the difference maker for us.
Very good. Well, I mean, the excitement is absolutely palpable. I'm sure everyone in the chat is looking forward to it immensely. It's almost upon us, this massive, massive game. So, we could really do our chances the world of good if we can get something from it. We have to find free hit several times, I think. We know. All right, guys. If we get in at all from this game, it's amazing. We're expected to lose. That's what a free hit is, I suppose. So let's go out there and give a good account of ourselves and enjoy it, and let our team express themselves and work together as well as we know they can. And anything could happen. Next time we all meet, we'll be discussing what did happen. That's pretty exciting. All right, lads, enjoy the game.
Cheers. And you.
Hail, hail. Hail, hail, Gav.
All right. Take it easy, lads. Until next
Cheers.
time. Hail, hail.